and welcome to another special edition of Retro-Aero's Hangar Hangout. This hangout has been a long time in coming, and unfortunately, it should have been sooner. But a few things have changed here at Retro-Aero's Hangar Hangout. One of the most important or most significant things is that on December 19th at 12:01 a.m., my father passed away. He was the original OG. He was the CFIs of CFIs. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to talk to him about aviation before he passed. Consequently, this episode is the entire interview I had with my dad prior to his passing. The voice you're about to hear is a voice from the beyond. It is a ghost past. For those of you that have parents that are involved in aviation, definitely take the opportunity to hear their stories and learn from them, because you never know just when you'll never hear it again. So once again, on December 19th, 2023, my father passed beyond the veil. And this is the last time we talked aviation.
Dad, just you when you first started flying, you told me about Gunther.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the story with Gunther and the coffee cup?
Oh, that was Gunther was part of the Falk Flying Club, and these guys had all been in the German army, and they've been horribly shell shocked from being on the Eastern Front. And of course, anytime you talk to a German soldier, they were fighting Russians, never Americans.
Right.
Old Gunther, he was more shell shocked than the rest. And Falk Flying Club had this old 140, and they ran all their students through there. It was kind of maintained, but the left brake never worked properly. So you go down the taxi strip, you held full right brake on it until it was headed for the grass. Then you kicked in full left rudder, gave it a blast of power, and did a ground loop to just short of going straight down the strip again. And then you went as far as you could. On takeoff, there was enough blast over the rudder that you could hold the tail wheel down for a while initially.
Right.
And the springs on the tail wheel would keep it fairly straight. When the tail wheel came up, there was enough air over the rudder that you could maintain it. Well, Gunther, he knew he was about ready to solo, and he was scared to death that he was going to mess it up. And I thought I need to do something a little radical with him to get his attention and get his mind off of being afraid. So I was drinking a cup of coffee, and I set it up on top of the instrument panel. I said, Gunther, don't spill this damn coffee. And, well, of course, he started fixating on the coffee. It was the last time I tried that. Well, it wasn't the last time. I did that once more. But we took off, and he put the full power to it, and you could feel it pulling off to the left. And he's watching that coffee cup all the while. And finally, it kicked over full rudder. Well, when he did that, we were going 90 degrees to the runway. And there was a big ditch there. And rather than cutting the power, I knew if I cut the power, that we'd be nose up in the ditch. So I left the full power on it. And it bounced down, bounced through the ditch, bounced up in the air. I lowered the nose to just keep it in ground effect. And the darn thing started flying. So off we went. There were a couple of hangars there, and there were airplanes in both of the hangars, so I couldn't fly through the hangar.
You were considering flying through hangars?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Which, not good. So I wound up flying between the hangars, looking up at the rain gutters and that were below the level of the roof. And Gunther was just petrified when that happened, and I brought it up, put it in a pattern, came around and landed it, and pulled back on the taxi strip. And Gunther, he was just a nervous wreck. Well, the coffee cup somehow still had some coffee in it.
Jeez.
And I set that up on the instrument panel. I said, God damn it, Gunther, don't spill the coffee this time. And he was so fixated on that. on making a good takeoff that he wasn't going to embarrass me by spilling the coffee again. He made a great takeoff and finally wound up soloing that day.
Oh, wow.
He got it all together. Meantime, I convinced him that and students always bought their instructor a bottle of the finest booze when they soloed.
Right.
And by golly, it wasn't a few hours after, here come Gunther with a bottle of Osbach Urat, the finest brandy that comes out of Germany. And enjoyed that very much later on and retelling the story.
I bet.
Gunther went on to stay with the Flying Club, and he got his private license, and he kind of dropped out at that point. He didn't want to keep going. It was just kind of too stressful, but he did all right. And it was that shell shock that got to him that would take over. I don't know how you make that go away.
I don't know. So, well, at least he got through private, right?
He got through his private.
He's solo.
Yeah, through solo and everything. And then your first instructor was a chief petty officer, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What happened? You were telling me a story that you had to rouse him out of bed, and then.
Well, he drank way too much, and so when you wanted to go flying, you went to the chief's barracks and roused him out of bed and directed him down to the car, set him down in the back seat of the car, and went off to the airplane, which was a pre-war Aeronica Champ, and 65 horse engine, no electrical system, no typical Champ. And on the day I soloed, we got him out of bed, stuck him in the airplane, and he had a particularly bad bender that night, and was kind of sleeping in the front seat. Well, the crosswinds were blowing a good 20 knots that day, and I didn't know any better. I was going to fly if that's what we were supposed to do.
Right.
And we started going down the runway, and it kept turning into the wind. I'd slow down and where it was just barely moving. And the old chief, what was his name? Byron was his name. And old Chief Byron, he started getting irritated because we were just sitting there in the airplane, not getting much anywhere, and didn't figure we'd ever take off at that rate. So he said, "What's the matter? Put some power in this goddamn thing." And he threw the power pole forward. And when he did that, the stick was still back from taxiing, and there's enough wind that it actually lifted it up in the air. It seemed like it was straight vertical into the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think you could do a hammerhead stall within 10 feet of the ground. That's basically what we did.
Oh my God.
Came down on the nose. And when we came down, the engine quit. Well, fortunately, the gas tank on the Champ was right above the hot engine. A hole in the gas cap for the gas gauge, which was a wire and a cork. And he got out and he looked at it and looked at the prop that looked more like a corkscrew than a propeller. And he got out a big hammer and a block of wood. And I'll say this for the guy, he was good. He straightened that propeller out just by eye, put it back on the plane.
Oh, wow.
No vibrations at all.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's quite an art, straightening a propeller. Whether it had any cracks in it, I don't know. It probably did, but we didn't see them. Put the propeller back on, and up we went.
And you soloed that day.
Let's see. That was the day I soloed, yeah.
I don't think many people have the story of I did a hammerhead stall at 10 feet and then soloed.
I would call it quits. I was like, where's the bar?
Jeez, that's awesome.
So those were some of the final stories that I heard from my dad. He had many more, and I wish I had heard all of them. But unfortunately, life is short, and we never know when the stories will be forever lost. So if you have a pilot in your family and you want to hear the stories, hear them sooner rather than later. You never know when you'll never hear them again. One thing I learned from the passing of my father is that you never know when the wisdom of those that have come before could be lost forever. So take the opportunity to learn from those who have more experience than you. It doesn't have anything to do with age or gender or anything else, but those that have flown airplanes into situations that you have not, you can learn from them. So don't just ignore it. Definitely take the opportunity to learn from those that have come before. As the old saying goes, we stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before us. My dad, my father, my mentor, had huge shoulders that I stood upon. I hope someday to do the same for those that follow behind me, to give guidance, mentorship, and encouragement in the same way that he gave to me. My dad was my hero. He was the one person that showed me my path. And I certainly hope that I can do the same for those that come behind me. I'm a check pilot. I'm a trainer. I'm a CFI. And I'm an instructor. I hope I inspire the same passion within those that come behind me that my dad gave to me. I want to instruct, and I hope that someday I can inspire others the same way that my dad inspired me. He was an inspiration. He was a hero. It's not one you'll ever learn about or ever hear about. But within aviation, that's kind of the way it works. When we do our job, we do things correctly, nobody knows. We all know about Sully and landing on the Hudson, because he was faced with an extraordinary circumstance and did extraordinary things. But ultimately, those of us that do our jobs well and that prevent extraordinary things from happening, you never hear about. So I hope I inspire you and others to create non-events and become the best of yourselves. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon. And don't worry, Retro-Aero Hangar Hangouts will be coming again soon in the future. Thank you, and thanks for listening.
Hugo Boss. All shades, all colors, shapes, and sizes.